All right. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Have you ever pushed yourself to the point you wanted to give up, but you didn't, and then you were rewarded in the best way possible? Hiking is one of the most rewarding hobbies out there with great rewards after you put in hard work. Today we're going to be talking about three main points. What is hiking? And I'm going to explain the rigorous activities required of hiking. I'm going to talk about how hiking requires discipline and how it relates to me and my military background. And I'm going to be talking about how pushing yourself in hiking brings great rewards. That brings me to my first point. What is hiking? And I'm going to explain the rigorous activities attached to hiking. So hiking is essentially walking just 10 times harder. A lot of times during hiking, you're in an element that you've never been in before. You're at higher elevation. It could be extremely cold or extremely warm, depending on the weather, where you're at, and the temperature. It's, I'd say, physically demanding as well because you are under more weight than you would be under walking. When you're doing hikes, you need to be prepared. You need to have water, tents, ropes, or whatever else you need to complete the hike. That is the rigorous side of why I believe hiking is hard. Now I'm going to talk. That brings me to my second point on how hiking requires discipline and how it relates to my military background. So in the military, we do a lot of hiking. We don't call it necessarily hikes. We call them ruck marches, but it's essentially the same thing. We carry lots of weight, not only weight that you need to complete the hike, but weight that you will need to complete the mission. So hiking in the military is, I'd say, even harder than just regular hiking. It requires a lot of mental strength as well, because a lot of times during military hikes, you don't necessarily know the distance that you're going. It could be 2 miles or it could be 20 miles, and you need to have that mental fortitude, strength to continue on the hike and continue to complete the mission. That brings me to my third point on how pushing yourself in hiking brings great rewards. In hiking, oftentimes you have to do it for long periods of time and long miles, but the rewards at the end could be worth it. In my opinion, some of the views that you get after hiking, you only get during hiking. It takes you to places you would never see unless you actually completed the hike yourself or you saw them in photos, which in my opinion don't do it justice. You also have the chance to see wildlife like when you're completing these hikes, and that's always, to me, super fascinating. I like seeing wildlife and their actual habitats and not just at zoos and whatnot, and you only get to see them sometimes if you're doing these hikes. In summary, we talked about what hiking is and we explained the rigorous activities required of hiking. We talked about how you have to carry weight and how you have to go long miles sometimes and high elevation. We talked about how hiking requires discipline and how it relates to my military background. We talked about it requires mental discipline in order to complete hikes sometimes that you don't know how long you're going to be going for. And we also talked about the physical aspect of it during doing military hikes as well, because you're going to be doing more weight sometimes than you regularly would be. We talked about how pushing yourself in hiking brings great rewards. Like I said, in hikes, you're going to see some of the best views you've ever seen in your life, and you wouldn't be able to see them unless you're doing, just photos and whatnot. And that brings me to the end of my speech. I challenge everybody to go take a hike.
Done?